Hi, I'm so glad you found the show. These oldest episodes are from 2018. I just found out recently that when people find the show, sometimes they start at number one. But this isn't a book that you must listen to in order. Please, I highly, highly recommend go to the most recent and work your way back, because our purpose here is to present up-to-date information. And some of these were from 2018. It's been a while. So please, please, please do not start at number one. You're listening to Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, and a certified professional dog trainer. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. Right now, here in November of 2018, we have a couple of places, a couple of states in the United States that are trying to pass laws about needing licensing for groomers. One of them is Bijou's law, which is getting closer and closer to actually becoming a law for groomers to have licensing. And what this really tells us is that the people are speaking up and what they want is safety. And how can we as dog pros everywhere make that happen? Well, the most obvious, of course, is industry standards and professional education, which many of us are for in a variety of different ways. I'm not so sure I want a state to handle that. I think I'd rather have our industry do it. But the more important part, and the part that I'm not hearing as much about, is that we need to educate our customers and other dog pros about our specific business needs so that we stop putting up with unsafe situations. A lot of the things that I'm seeing that are being brought up when people are complaining about, dogs getting hurt at a groomer are things like, I saw one picture with a dog whose tongue had been cut. And everyone who's not a dog groomer or a dog professional is saying, how could that possibly happen? Well, we as groomers know that that dog probably bit the scissors. Things like that do happen. They make a difference. And so when we start telling people, this is how we keep everybody safe, and we educate them about what we need to do to teach their dog to be calm and cooperative so that we can have safe grooming. And also to help other dog pros know more about our business. But right now, I also want to talk about, because these things are coming up and owners are really saying that this is what they want. They want safety. They want to know their dog can go off and get a haircut and a bath and not get hurt. And they don't understand where we're coming from. So I want to talk a little bit about the dog owner responsibilities. And one of those things, I want you all to take a deep breath and be thinking about this. It's going to feel a little bit odd at first, but dogs are a luxury. You do not have to have a dog. A dog is a luxury, and owners have some responsibilities that come with that. And one of those responsibilities is to make sure your dog doesn't hurt anyone. I think that's pretty obvious. We all think about it in terms of, well, we can't bite the neighbor, or you can't bite the mailman, or you can't bite the neighborhood kids, and can't hurt the neighbor's dog. But we also need to extend that to, vets, groomers, because we're people too. But to make sure that your dog doesn't hurt anyone also means that as an owner, you have to seek out training solutions if your dog has a problem. And you also have to warn people about your dog's problems. So let's put a little bit of responsibility on some owners. And when we're talking about safety policy, and I talked about it in my first episode, so if you want to go back to episode 1, learn a little bit more about the safety policy there too. But an owner who tells me up front, in the past, my dog has been really bad about his ears. Now they're informing me about a dog's problems, and I can tell them that there are training solutions for their dog's problems. A lot of dog owners don't know that there's a solution. And a lot of vets, a lot of groomers, a lot of trainers don't really know what the solution is either, which is part of why I'm doing this podcast, but to help people understand, oh, wait, this isn't forever. So if I tell you what my dog's problems are, that's part of me as an owner keeping everyone safe and preventing my dog from hurting anyone, and seeking out solutions and trusting the professionals around me, including my professional groomer and my trainer and my vet techs and my doggy daycare person, that to trust the people around me, that we're all trying to work together to help this dog be better. Now, the other dog owner responsibility that I think is really important here is to make sure that you keep your dog healthy. That's a pretty obvious one. We all know, well, you have to keep your dog healthy. And, your veterinarian is a necessity. Okay, but a lot of vets will turn dogs away if they have huge behavior problems, and we're seeing it more and more. And they might not turn them away during an emergency, but they might say, yeah, we don't bring your dog back. And I've worked with a couple of dogs who have been kind of told, we don't want your dog back. So we are also telling them that it's your responsibility to keep your dog healthy, but if you have this behavior problem, you must address it. You, as a dog owner, must address your behavior problem, and we're here to help you. I want them to find solutions. If I don't have the solution, I will send them to someone who does. So the vet is a necessity, but here's the thing. This is going to be hard for you guys to think about, but just go with me. Your groomer is a luxury. Dog grooming by a professional is a luxury service for a luxury item. And I know we don't want to think about dogs as items, but I want you to think that it's not your personal responsibility to keep your customer's dog healthy. It's your responsibility to do your job, and grooming is baths, skincare, hair care, and nice trims. But if that dog is crazy and doing something that's going to hurt the dog or going to hurt you or going to make all the other dogs in the area stressed out, then that's not something you have to take on. Refusing service for an owner who isn't willing to help out, who isn't willing to work with that dog, isn't a problem. Right? Anybody who listens to your safety policy and says, I don't care, they aren't your customer. So their job is to keep their dog healthy. They don't have to have a professional groomer do it. I would love for everyone to have a professional groomer do it, because I think we've all seen what people do when they aren't professionals. But at the end of the day, if they think it's going to be hilarious to wrestle their dog down and do his nails, then they can do it in their garage. So it's a little hard for us to think about that grooming is a luxury. It's a luxury service, and that while keeping a dog healthy is important, it's an owner's responsibility and not ours. So when we're talking about things like Bijou's law and safety and education, we also need to remind owners that I am here as your professional. I'm willing to put beautiful trims on your dog if your dog lets me do my job. If not, well, we need to work on the dog's behavior and try to get the best that we can. And that's just the way that we're going to help that dog be better for the future. And to make sure that they understand that this is for safety, because that's what Bijou's law is all about. In the licensing laws, is that people just want to know their dogs are safe. That's what we want too. Like, I don't want groomers losing their livelihood because, a dog bites their right thumb and they're out of work for God knows how long, or even a career-ending injury. We want to make sure everybody is safe. And so I'm actually kind of thinking that the more we bring back these owner responsibilities, trainers don't take on training customers if the owner says, oh, I'm not planning on putting any work in it. No, I'm paying you to do all of that so that I can just go about my day and do the same things I've always done. Trainers don't take that on. Why would groomers? Why? We don't need to. So I do encourage all groomers to have a safety policy and to tell everyone about it. Because you know what? If trainers and vets and doggy daycares know about your safety policy and the reason behind it, owners will start hearing the same types of advice wherever they go. And that's really important for us all to have this united front that we are here, all of us, to make sure your dog can be cared for to our best ability and to make sure that this dog can handle being taken care of. It'll keep other pros from throwing groomers under the bus. and I don't even know if they realize they're doing it, but I'll give you some examples, some that I've heard because I end up getting called in with dogs who've been bad someplace else. But, oh, something bad must have happened at the groomers if they said he wasn't good for nails because I know this dog and blah, 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 right? Something bad must have happened at the groomers gets told a lot. But what if instead they now know more about the grooming process and say, yeah, it sounds like your dog had a tough time at the groomers with their nails. Maybe the things you've tried already aren't complete yet. Maybe just massaging his feet on the sofa didn't transfer to having his nails trimmed, which is actually one of the most common ones, is that they're working on handling feet, but not in a way that is going to be helpful for nails. Another example of being thrown under the bus. I can't believe they let him go unfinished, and they're having you come back in a few days to finish him. Like, that's totally inappropriate. You know what? There are plenty of times I will stop and reschedule the rest of the grooming. I can think of one pretty recently with a dog who, at about 1 hour in, just was having trouble handling anything. And it's just a matter of he was young and silly and pretty matted on his legs. And before he started to get really antsy or too worked up, we stopped. And he had a great session. And then his next one was great too. It was in a couple of days because we can't just be in this mindset that it has to get done and it has to get done now. So if vets and daycares and stuff say, oh, well, that seems reasonable. They did a whole bunch and before he got too started, getting a little worked up and they said, well, let's reschedule him and do some more. Maybe they won't throw us under the bus. Maybe we all can come together and say, oh, that seems quite reasonable. And another example of throwing groomers under the bus is any version of, well, the groomer just needs to whatever. Like the groomer just needs to give him peanut butter and say, who's a good boy, who's a good boy, who's a boy. Whatever it is that they're coming up with that they just need us to do. That when we talk more to the other professionals and the other dog owners and the dog community in general, for them to realize that grooming is already two hands and a whole lot of work, and there's not a whole lot more we can add to what we are doing. So we're trying, but the idea of, oh, well, the groomer just needs to do this or this or this, and ta-da, everything's going to be easy. That'd be great, but that's not the way it works. In fact, so I often have people say, well, what would you do in this situation? And a lot of those situations aren't a 5-minute answer. Sometimes I feel like I'm being asked to do like a party trick. Like, well, what else is going on? So again, this one's all about safety, education, talking to our owners, talking to our colleagues, making sure that everyone knows how to help these dogs be better. And that's really what Bijou's Law is about. That owners don't understand that we're using dryers, that their dog might be in a cage with a dryer on him. People freak out with that idea. I'm like, well, he's not good for standing and doing it by hand. So that's actually a nicer way to do it. We're not like cooking them in there, but they have these crazy ideas. We just need to make sure everyone knows what we're doing. Like how could possibly hurt an eye? How does it not happen every day? I mean, that we're using sharp tools, right? In fact, I've had customers who really had no idea that our tools are sharp. Like it didn't occur to them. They kind of assumed that we were using safety equipment. And like safety equipment doesn't cut hair. So like all of our stuff is razor sharp. And the ball tip scissors next to an eye can still poke an eye. We're all trying to be really, really safe. And now with laws that are coming out to really kind of change our business and our industry, whether we like it or not, because I think some of those laws are going to be a little bit crazy. Next thing you know, we won't be allowed to have dryers or, scissors of a certain size. Who knows what they're going to come up with. But for us to be able to say, okay, we're trying to make things very, very safe. And if your dog is crazy, struggling, having a hard time, we're going to slow down and calm them down and work on their behavior and not worry about getting the trim perfect. Because that's how dogs get hurt. Absolutely, without a doubt, dogs get hurt, people get hurt, equipment gets broken. And when we present it as a safety policy, then we're also presenting it as, hey, this is just the way we do business. And it's not a response to a dog being naughty. It's something we present before the dog is even on our table. We talk to them when they book it. It's not like they're being singled out. We just explain it to everyone. So just some thoughts about some of these laws that are coming out. And I would love some feedback, people. I haven't heard much feedback at all, but I am here for your questions and I would love to talk. When we're talking about keeping a dog calm and relaxed and just working on their comfort zone, one of the things I want you to start thinking about is that that's helping them learn that this is safe and that they can cooperate with us and that everything is all right. We already talked a little bit about safety policies, and we've talked about ways we've talked about fear and avoiding fear. And by avoiding fear, we're helping the dogs to relax more for what needs to be done. But I also would like for you now to be thinking about telling dogs what we are doing. And I call it just naming the stuff, just telling them what it is. So, for instance, I say loud noise an awful lot before I turn something on. So, especially with a dog that isn't used to being groomed or is new to me and I don't know how they're going to be, like I'll turn on my clippers down low, like I'm holding them down toward the floor when I turn them on, and I say loud noise, bzz, turn on the clippers, and see how they react. If they're fine with that, then the noise comes closer. If they're not fine with that, then that's where we work on it. And I turn them off again. Okay, here comes loud noise. Bzz, here comes loud noise. Bzz, right? And you can get them used to terms like loud noise or, my hand on your hip, right? Or brush. I name my tools a lot. Brush, here's the comb. And I'll let them sniff them, but not play with them. And sometimes if it's too rigorous a sniffing, like, oh, no, because some of this stuff is sharp. But to tell them what we are doing, where we're doing it, I often will run my finger over an area before I run a tool over it. So for instance, I might run my finger over an ear and say, okay, this ear with the brush. So first I run my finger over it the way I would with the brush, and then I add the brush, and then I add the dryer, but start talking to them. Start talking to the dogs and coming up with your own lingo. I believe I have a video on there with, I've got a couple of videos on the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page of, me talking to the dogs, telling them what I'm going to do. This eye toward me, toward you, with the comb, with my finger, with the clipper. So talking them through it is important also. And when we're talking about all of our tools and staying still for it, all of those grooming behaviors, that type of training transfers to veterinary behaviors. Now, there are a lot of veterinary behaviors that do not transfer to grooming behaviors, and that's kind of why I really push the grooming behaviors more. Because, like at the vet's office, something like chin targeting is really great. It can be very, very useful to have a dog who places their chin on your hand or on your leg so that you can work on something on their body. On a grooming table, it's not likely to be able to be usable. But a dog on a grooming table who knows how to be still in our hands while we touch a back leg or do range of motion on a back leg, right? Not that groomers are practicing it as range of motion, but through the grooming process, we are working that leg in various angles. So it does transfer to a vet appointment where someone might say, okay, relax, you're in my hands, and they're going to wiggle your leg, right? So it transfers, the grooming stuff transfers to vets. And I want to give you an example, a specific example. One of my guys, we had some problems with a urinary tract infection, and my vet had said, I would like to get a sterile sample from him. So we made an appointment to catheterize him the next day to get a sterile sample. And I thought to myself, well, is there anything I need to teach him before we do this tomorrow? And you know what? No, I couldn't think of anything that I was going to need to teach him for something brand new. So when I got to the vet's office, there was a tech I hadn't met yet. And I do bring my guys there often enough, even if it's just a matter of checking their weights, because my guys are flyball dogs, and I try to keep them in really good shape, and I'm watching their weights and making sure they're not getting too skinny or too heavy. But they go to the vets for at least a weight and cookies pretty often. So I got Rocky on the floor. This new tech came over, and he's being his silly self. He's doing the border collie ferret dance thing, And I didn't realize while I was talking that she had put one of the thermometers next to his ear, one of the ear ones. And so I put my hand on his head and I said, okay, Brocky, still. Yep, thermometer, they're taking their temperature. It's going to beep in a minute, okay? Loud noise, beep, beep, here it comes. And he's staying perfectly still. I've got my hand on his head and I just told him to be still for it. And then when it beeped, I told him, okay, good job. Nice job, buddy. You can play. But until I calmed him down, he would have just sat there wiggling for her, right? Like she's got, the thing in his ear, not knowing that he has a behavior that he knows. And so then we went into the room to do this procedure. minor procedure, but still, catheterizing him, something he's never had done. And I know the vet very, very well. This tech was new to me. She had asked me if I wanted to be in there. I'm like, yeah, I would like to, because he has some words that I know I can talk him through it. He has a pretty good vocabulary. So thinking about what he's going to need to do, right? So I get him in the room and I tell him, okay, picking you up. And I put him on the table. All right, lie down on your side. And I got him on his side. Okay, we're going to hold you this way. Who's a good dog? Great job. Okay, we're going to clean you up, right? These are all things he understands. And then when it came time to actually do the catheter, those are body parts that have been named. Like, okay, she's going to poke you. And I put my finger on his side, like poke. Right? She's going to poke your willy. I know, not very professional, but we come up with words, right? But it's a body part, and he knows what that is because, he's a male dog. He's been cleaned. He's had hair trimmed, right? So when we told him that, everything was a breeze, right? So, okay, here she comes. She's going to poke you. And what? 3, 2, 1, poke. Yeah, nice job, buddy. All right. And he was perfectly still for it because he knows, relax, be still. He understands what I'm telling him that we're doing to him, right? We're not asking him to do anything other than to be still and allow us to do things to him, which is really what grooming is about. It's not so much about him trying to interact with us as much as he's just, okay, follow instructions, some simple instructions about being calm and where I need to be so that they can do things to me. And so he was great. And then when we were done, I put him back on the floor and he went back to being the hoppy, jumpy, silly little guy. The thing is that you wouldn't expect from the silliness he was doing earlier for him to have been so calm and collected while this was going on. But that's because we've worked on, hey, be good and relax, and it's not the end of the world. He's totally comfortable with people doing stuff to him and knowing that playtime will happen later. So things that we teach in grooming can apply directly to vet's office stuff. I will give you another example. I have a couple of Bichons that I groom, and they had a vet who was coming to the house for them who was having a little bit of trouble drawing blood. So we booked it so that I could hold for blood draws. And the dogs are fine for me. I would just hold and like, okay, Tinkerbell. Yeah, Tinkerbell and Buttercup. Aren't those the cutest little names for Bichons, right? But okay, Tinkerbell, and relax. And I'm going to hold your leg. Okay, and here comes the poke. But a lot of vets aren't used to saying, like, here comes the poke, right? Like, here it comes. 3, 2, 1, poke. And I see that 3, 2, 1, do something. Almost like when we're trying to organize lifting something heavy with more than one person. Right? We're trying to get us all timed together. 3, 2, 1, lift, right? 3, 2, 1, poke. When they know what poke means and they know when it's coming and you're having them be calm, right? When they know what dryer means or loud noise, all of those things help a dog to remain calm and to be able to handle the things that we want them to do. They directly help with grooming. And definitely help at the vet's office also. My guys have been good for things like x-rays and tooth exams and all sorts of things that many dogs have problems with. And I really feel that it's because we spend so much time on some of these grooming behaviors and making sure that my dogs are comfortable being handled all over. For any of you out there who are looking for some one-on-one help, we have these wonderful devices in our pockets. These phones that we can do live video with each other. I can definitely set up a lesson with you with the dog that you're having trouble with right there on your table and be able to guide you through some of this stuff. Definitely reach out and let me know. I am at Chrissy@happycritters.net. Certainly you can find me through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook group. And we can definitely set up times to work on these things together because you might be surprised how much I can do for you live, where we're actually looking at each other, being able to observe what you're seeing, helping guide you, or even showing you on a dog over here on this end of video. So there are ways for us to help each other. There are ways to learn this from a distance.
If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.